Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to the Built Through Pain slash the Unscripted Mind podcast. I still don't know if I wanted to keep the old Built Through Pain name. I feel like it's not as marketable, but then again, it's all just a feeling. So we never know what works. Anyway, I have a different approach today. I actually wrote a very short post on this topic, and I want to turn this into a very short podcast today. So, today's topic is about overcoming writer's block. So, this is something that almost every creator and or writers face sooner or later. But I really think that I've experienced it myself too, especially during like the first few months to the first 6 years, first, not 6 years, sorry, first few months to first 6 months of my creating or practicing in public journey. And here's the thing, after a while, I no longer experience writer's block. And looking back, I'm starting to want to call bullshit on it because I no longer experience it. And I think I know what happened here. I just really think that a lot of times writer's block is a bit of an excuse. We may or may not consciously know it, but yeah, I said it. So I'm calling bullshit on it today. You see, writer's block isn't really about running out of ideas. It's impossible to run out of ideas. Our minds are constantly creating thoughts and ideas, right? And honestly, there are countless things to write about. The world, the universe, everything is packed with stories. Um, so it's about something a lot deeper, right? Creative or writer's block are often rooted in fear, perfectionism, and in this constant pressure we put onto ourselves to produce something, to be perfect. That's definitely something that I experienced when I first started. I was putting on so much pressure and stress on myself to actually create something, to put something on the screen that I remember sitting in front of a blanking cursor for hours. Okay. This is something that we all been through. So I want you to think about this. Every time you sit down to write, right? Or create, it's technically a battle between our own creative self and our inner critic. And that inner critic loves to meddle. And it's super sneaky too, at least for my case, right? Sometimes it's just going and I don't even know it's going. I've normalized it. So the inner critic works in sneaky ways. It throws in guilt trips a lot. It throws in unrealistic expectations, also known as perfectionistic thoughts, and a load of shoulds and should nots. And if we're not careful, that inner critic becomes an instrument of our ego. It's the ego, it's our own ego that holds us back from really expressing ourselves. So, yes, writer's block or creative block it's when the inner critic is actually very active and it's holding us back from expressing ourselves. There is a level of shame here that prevents us from just putting whatever ideas and thoughts that we have onto the screen or a canvas or paper. So, what do we do? How do we break this cycle? I think it's important. Number one, I think it's important to have a shift in perspective for anything that we want to do, like that we want to break a cycle, right? Any new behavior that we try to implement, we have to break this cycle. So, what I found helpful is that instead of fighting the inner critic by, when I notice that the inner critic is talking, instead of me talking trash to it, telling it to shut up and blah, 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 fighting it just kind of makes it worse. A lot of times the inner critic is here to try to tell us something. I mean, like, I don't know what your inner critic's trying to tell us. That's something that we have to inquire through self reflection, right? Just ask us a series of questions. Ask ourselves, ask the inner critic a series of questions. But anyway, usually trying to resist the inner critic just makes it stronger. Instead of doing that, we can work on transforming the expectation into something more flexible. So it's again, it's the expectation. It's that, oh, I have to do this. I have to do this. I should or I should not. That makes us feel guilty or ashamed of our natural expression. So instead of focusing on the outcome, the finished piece, or what we expect the outcome should be, we just focus on the act of creating. I know it's easier said than done, but what I really find helpful, especially for the writing part, is that just don't even let the blinking cursor on the screen blink on a blank screen for too long. Just go ahead and put something down, put a word down, put I. And then you can, like, there's like a million possibilities that can go after the word I, right? Put anything down, any word that you see. Write about, write about you being stuck right now. Write about your, you how much you're struggling. There's always something to write about. If that doesn't work, then again, don't just sit there and stare at your blank canvas or screen or paper. Maybe get up and step back for a little. Get up and do something. Make yourself a tea. I don't know, engage your senses a little. Go cooking, go for a walk, go for a 15 to 30-minute walk, maybe to an hour. That really, really helps getting that some kind of like cardio movement going, right? That always helps for me. So sometimes the best way to overcome a creative blockage is to just step away. When we step away, we get to get a fresh perspective. If we keep sitting here staring at our blank paper, canvas, screen, we're not getting any new perspectives, okay? So don't just sit there and beating yourself up. We tend to do that when we have this expectation that we cannot fulfill, right? Beating ourselves up does not help, and it's no fun. Yeah, let's just be honest. So, another thing that I want to say is that it's important to embrace the idea that not everything we write has to be groundbreaking. Most of the stuff that I write down is complete shit. I mean, it's shit, especially when I feel like they're shit, especially right after I write them or like during the time that I'm writing them. But I'm still putting something on paper, right? The magical thing about writing or creating shit is that, like, I don't delete these immediately, especially the handwritten stuff, like, whatever I write down in my journal, right? Don't delete these pieces of shit that you've created, because like maybe a few days, a few weeks, a few months, I found a few months down the road, when you run into the same situation where you feel creatively stuck again, you can actually go back over your past creations, your past pieces of shit, and you'll be surprised the type of inspiration you'll be able to discover within your pile of shit. So that has always worked for me, and I hope that would also work for you. But my point is, if you just allow yourself to be human, right? To make mistakes, to fail, then we'll naturally enjoy the process instead of judging ourselves over it. Um, just to put words or your creation on a page onto something, onto something outside of yourself, just this process, during this process, you'll find that your creation, like your creative juices will start flowing again. In order for anything to flow, we have to unblock the blockage, right? And for this instance, blockage here is our inner critic. Actually, to backtrack a little, I think for like most of the endeavors that we try to do, not just for, everything takes creativity, because everything that takes creativity has this inner critic really mistrusts creativity. So anytime we're trying to do something, we're trying to like do something that involves creativity, the inner critic will be there. You betcha. And I do still want to go back to my point of calling this inner critic slash writer's block or creative blockage bullshit. It's because well, honestly, it exists and it also doesn't exist at the same time. It existed for me when my mind was overcome by the inner critic, right? And the writer's block no longer exists for me when I am able to calm the inner critic, not by fighting it. Fighting it is not going to calm it, but just by, kind of letting it talk. And I still do my thing anyway. So, yeah, we're not the inner critic. Inner critic is just a part of us that's there for a reason. So, all right, so that's my short little rant today about writer's block. That's it for today. I do want to give you guys one encouragement. Keep putting those words and ideas and creativity out there. If you are a content creators, keep publishing. It doesn't matter. Nobody gives a shit. Oh, and remember, creativity thrives when we let go of the need to be perfect. So thanks for listening to my Built Through Pain slash the Unscripted Mind podcast. I actually came up with another name yesterday, Interventure, but I'm not sure if I want to slap this label on this podcast yet. So I'm still going to use this for something, this word that I really like. So if you find today's episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share it with others who might need that nudge to get past their creative blocks. I'll catch you next time. Keep creating. See ya.